Well, it happened again. It just keeps on happening. He won't stop making videos. Xbox is dead again. When will Dreamcast guy ever learn that clickbaiting can only take you so far before people get sick of what you're posting? This is like the 50 millionth time he's posted that the Xbox is dead, and I get to leech revenue off of it by making a video on it again, with the exact same talking points as pretty much the last video. Well, then again, he does actually try to say something different, so it isn't going to be the same as the last time we covered one of his videos of Xbox being dead. Like, I'm honestly going to lose it, man. I just can't take it anymore. It's just the same video over and over and over again. I don't know why he just doesn't do a crap gamer and repost the exact same videos with different thumbnails. He might as well just do that. But then again, it wouldn't really make sense because there'll be different talking points, but you know, I guess it doesn't really hurt him to waste 8 minutes, 10 minutes of his life. So anyway, let's go take a look at his video.
What's up, gamers? Dreamcast guy here, and today we're talking about the Xbox.
He did it. He did it again. He was holding up the Xbox controller again. He did it. He did it, guys. We're free. He didn't hold up the console. That would be really cool, actually. Imagine we threw that at like himself or something. He just bounced back, hit him again a couple hundred more times, and eventually, just maybe, he'll make some quality content. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, if you were to put these videos side by side, they're pretty much... It's crazy how similar they would be until they actually get to the actual talking points.
It's because a new sales report has just been released that somehow the Xbox console is actually doing worse than last year. Now, last year was actually record-breakingly bad sales, and now they're down another 60%. Microsoft has officially declared they're about to start pulling out of certain markets. Now,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that fake? Like, I don't know if it is entirely fake. Maybe they could be pulling out of Saudi and a couple other places, but from what I've heard, they're not pulling out. They're still there to this day, and from what I've been told, it is misinformation, so maybe this is just the downside of you posting a video incredibly fast and not waiting a couple hours, maybe a day or two, who really knows? Personally, I don't know, I don't care, I don't use the Xbox platform anymore, so it doesn't necessarily affect me in any way possible, but if it does for you, I'm sure you already know the answer.
that means is that not only is the Xbox not selling, they're about to stop even shipping them to certain parts of the world. But I want to talk about this because a lot of journalists and gamers are kind of freaking out about these sales numbers because they're so bad, they don't even mathematically make sense. But let's take a look at the data.
So if you're smart like me, you would kind of realize that there is something wrong with this. If Xboxes are not selling, they have to be making it up somewhere else. Whether or not that's Game Pass or Microsoft in general, who really knows? But more than likely, they're going to make this money back in some way, shape, or form, but keep themselves within the games industry. If it was really that bad as you say it is, Dreamcast guy, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have purchased Activision Blizzard. All you really needed to do was a bit of tinking, Dreamcast guy, a little bit of tinking. If you used your brain for some cognitive thought, you would have realized, well, Microsoft is clearly making this up somewhere else, because if this was an issue, they would have pulled out some time ago. And they would have sold probably all of their IPs and pretty much everything else that was gaming related, but they haven't done that, so clearly something isn't right here.
I hope you're having a great day, and if you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
You heard the man. Give this video a like and subscribe, or I'll be outside your house.
So this is Christopher Dring, one of the writers over at gamesindustry.biz, and this is part of a larger report. But what's interesting is that people have been talking a lot about the game industry shrinking, a lot of layman opinions. It seems like the data doesn't back this up, but there has been conversation about the fact that as we continue to get more remakes and remasters and DLC for irrelevant games and stuff like that, it feels like less people are buying games. That's kind of the conversation, is that the industry is shrinking.
Well, there is a myriad of reasons why this is happening. The main one is people just don't have the time to play new games. They've already got games that are already existing and are continually supported that they are just going to continue playing because they like those games. Even to this day, I still play games like For Honor and Destiny 1, purely because I find them fun to play. and either future installments in this game or just future improvements on it may not be as good as the original versions that were intended. Look at Destiny 2. Not many people like that garbage game. The point is that a lot of people just don't have enough time to dedicate to a bunch of new products over and over again every year that these new releases come out, and they have a very select amount of time. That's mainly what I want to get at, and just like I said, any newer products that come out aren't really as good as the original ones if they don't improve or innovate. So why play the new game when you could just play the old game that you've been sticking with and is still enjoyable? If you want to look at it in another way, just remember that you've probably played multiple MMOs, and at one point you were probably playing multiple. At one point I was playing Warframe, War Thunder, and World of Tanks. Now, I don't have the time for them, so I mainly dedicate my time to playing occasionally Warframe and just War Thunder. War Thunder's my main game right now. Silly tank game, go burr.
When that's definitely not the case. I mean, I've talked about that myself, that it feels like there's less good games, but people are clearly still spending. Game sales are up 20%. Now, this is actually a pretty big thing. There's actually tens of billions of dollars moving around in the gaming industry, so a 20% increase in sales, that's a very good sign. Now, that's probably because of stuff like Space Marine, the huge success of stuff like Astrobot, even things like God of War Ragnarok and FF16 coming to PC. Those both actually boosted the industry sales. But here's the part people are focusing on the most. PS5 console sales are down 17% year on year, which even that seems kind of bad to me. I mean,
there's a very good reason for that, Dreamcast guy. That's because console gaming is becoming less and less worth it, purely because you have to spend more money than you would over each generation for games that either aren't worth it, or consoles that aren't really worth it. We are now getting to the point for a Pro model that you have to buy a disk drive and a vertical stand separately, which will stand you around, let's say, in Australian for a total thing, including the Pro, the vertical stand, and the disk drive, around $1,217. That is a lot of money to be putting into a console that's not going to give you that much of a performance increase. And this is also not including stuff for your online services, well, paying for your online services, you know, absolute scummy practice that should disappear, like your PS Plus and your Xbox Live or Game Pass Core or whatever you want to call it, but pretty much, there's just a lot of things that aren't really necessary that you don't really need on a PC platform, so most people find it a better time investment just to get a PC that works for them. Now, whether or not you agree with that is entirely up to you. It's mainly what I've seen a lot of people do. They're sick of paying for console stuff, and a lot of people that I know are just moving to PC because they would prefer that one-time spend and that PC lasting you 5 to 10 years.
Typically at this point, I feel like you would see console sales speed up, because normally 4 years into a life cycle, you get either the first or second price drop. Typically, like since the PlayStation 5 launched at $500, you would expect 4 years into the cycle, it'd cost $350 or something at this point, but it's still not. I think part of this comes down to the fact that there's so many people who have already bought a PS5.
It would have been really cool of Sony to go out of their way to actually make the price of the consoles cost a little bit less, but for some reason they want to price gouge everyone because economy or whatever. Like, you would expect that to be pretty obvious that might be the issue why their console sales are down. It's because you're increasing the price on top of increasing the price of subscription service, eventually increasing the price of games. It's becoming relatively annoying to maintain these consoles, just alone on the membership purchases you may need to access your online features if you play online.
They're having trouble reaching a new audience. The Nintendo Switch is actually speeding up in sales, which I must admit is extremely strange to me because, I mean, no offense, I'm not really playing my Nintendo Switch at all at this point, but somehow people are still buying Nintendo Switches. Here's the big part, though, that a lot of people are really digging in on. Xbox sales are down 58% this year. Starfield launched last year. Now, some people initially took this as him signaling the fact that sales spiked in September of 2020. And that's not the case. Last year, even though Starfield came out in 2023, it actually did not boost sales whatsoever. I actually found the exact data here. Last year,
Yes, some random guy on Reddit must be giving the full or truth and with no provided proof the correct information. Isn't that great, Dreamcast guy? Really good to know that you're putting the best of the best effort into your videos. I mean, I can't speak much. I'm a pretty low effort content creator. That's mainly because I don't have enough time, but you know, very big difference between us. But if you're going to use someone on Reddit, at least let them provide a link or a source to where they got this information from instead of just them saying it. It really doesn't, you know, look good on you. Yeah, I understand that there's a lot more context to what this guy is going on about, but just saying that he said something and that something that he said is somehow now going to be entirely truthful or correct, I don't know. I wouldn't take him too seriously unless he provides proof, whether or not that's evidence through links or just anything else, right? Just don't ever use people on Reddit if they don't have a link or proof to back up what they're saying. It does not make you look good.
Xbox sales were already down 35%, which was a cataclysmically bad number. This is just literally going down and down and down. I mean, it just seems insane to me that, if anything, these numbers are getting to the point where it's pretty obvious that Xbox is going to die, that Xbox is pretty much in its last death throes. Now, when I talk about this, people often get upset saying, you're just stirring up console war BS, or I don't truly understand the Microsoft metrics. But I think that if you cannot sell a console, you're going to have long-term problems no matter what, because
I've said this before and I'll say it again. If Sony stops selling consoles, they will be fine. If Microsoft stops selling console because they're a multi-platform publisher, they're more than just a console now. They do many other things besides just putting games on a console. They've got the PC platform. They both have Microsoft to put their games on, and if Microsoft wishes to put, like, it doesn't really matter. They can put their games on any platform, right? They are more than just that console now. So this, in my eyes, will not be the death of these platforms, unless they continually get worse and worse with pricing structures of their games, how much money they're spending on games. There are so many ways you could look at this on how they could actually end up hurting themselves more than just putting it on a console. As much as we don't like it, the world is going more and more towards streaming services. Physical ownership will be a thing of the past.
When it comes to these systems, they do make a lot of money on exclusives. Whether it is Sony or Nintendo or Microsoft, they make a lot of money on exclusives, at least on paper, right? But where you actually make the most money is third-party stuff. I mean, anything that gets sold on a PlayStation 5, Sony takes a direct 30% cut. So if they sell $100 of DLC, the developer gets $70 and Sony gets $30 completely for free. So that's why Sony makes just literally billions and billions of dollars every single year on like Fortnite microtransactions and stuff. Xbox has gotten themselves in this weird spot where, because nobody's buying an Xbox and literally nobody is buying Xbox games, they're not even getting that 30% cut from other people.
Are you forgetting about all the other platforms that they bring their games to? Are you high, Dreamcast guy? They take a certain amount from fucking Sony's platform. You pretty much said it yourself. They take 70, Sony takes 30. And the same goes for Steam. This is why they're multi-platform. Let people buy the games that they want on the platform of their choice, and they'll give you money if they like the game. They don't need to waste hundreds of dollars on a console that they may not want.
Now, the reason everybody is just kind of literally shocked is because it just seems like Xbox's big campaign, Xbox has really been pushing the fact that you don't need an Xbox. Xbox is an idea. Xbox is a brand. Xbox is just this nebulous concept. A TV can be an Xbox. Your phone can be an Xbox. That kind of marketing is not selling systems, and I think now it's completely blowing up in their faces way quicker than anybody could have predicted. I thought Xbox would die in about 5 years. They may not last another 2 years, at least not in the current existence.
So Xbox is going to die if they don't start selling consoles, even though consoles are not part of their main marketing strategy and not their main audience anymore. They're a multi-platform publisher just like Sony is now. Now they're going to die. Wouldn't this also mean if they're not selling more and more consoles or are not getting an actual increase in console sales, wouldn't that also mean that Sony's going to die eventually, not as fast as, in this case, as Xbox? My brain is suffering, using logic to look at these arguments and saying that Xbox... I swear to God, he's gonna make another video within a week's time, like, yep, Xbox is dead again. If you read the comments on this video, it's insane how all of his fanbase are just genuinely fed up with it. It's crazy how often he can spam these videos and people continue to watch them. But then again, at least in our case, at least we make some form of revenue from it. Everyone else just kind of suffers.
Like, even if they are selling subscriptions, even if Game Pass is like generating some money, you can't deny the fact that a 58% drop in sales is completely bonkers. I mean, everybody is pointing out the fact that it just seems like Xbox systems, one of the biggest problems of them is they have so many different variations. There's different versions of disk drive and no disk drive and tiny version. The Xbox Series S, which has much worse graphics and no disk drive.
How is that a knock against Microsoft or Xbox? Doesn't Sony also have multiple editions? Like, am I missing something here? Like, who cares if they've got multiple editions? In that screenshot, I remember looking at it on stream, there's actually a couple limited edition things in there. I'm sure Sony, if you include their limited editions, they've got multiple as well. How is that bad? It just gives you more choice. Now, if they're not reasonably priced, then yeah, it's an issue. But for the most part, at least where I am, I don't know, I wouldn't want to pay $750 for a new console, I'd rather pay $500. God, don't you just love Australia's peak currency?
And that's why we're starting to see stuff like this. This morning, there was an official press release internally done, but it's been confirmed that Microsoft is going to stop selling consoles in the Middle East and in North Africa. Now,
if this was from anyone else, I would have believed that this could have had some merit, but it's from Zubitech. He's a literal Gooner PlayStation fanboy. I don't trust him for a second. Most of the stuff he says is usually like a half-truth, or not even true at all.
Now, a lot of people have chimed in that live in those territories, places like the UAE and stuff like that, and they've essentially said that the entire Middle East at this point is just owned by PlayStation. If you want to play stuff, you're either doing it on your PC, but predominantly people play on systems, and it's all PlayStation 4s and PlayStation 5s.
No shit, Sherlock. PlayStation is more popular. Thank you for establishing the most obvious thing known to man.
The entire house of cards has begun to collapse. Now, I wanted to talk about this tweet I saw because I feel like, in a way, this very much succinctly explains the death of Xbox, in my opinion, which is this idea about how shows keep getting made by Netflix and then pretty much immediately canceled. And this isn't just Netflix, it's also stuff like Disney Plus. They spent like hundreds of millions of dollars making the Acolyte TV show, which I heard some fans liked and a lot of fans really, really hated. But a lot of this stuff, making it and then immediately canceling it, even after you've invested like $500 million into it just to...
Wouldn't this be more appropriate for Sony because they were the ones that made Concord, released a game nobody wanted, it had a couple $100 million behind it, and then it completely flopped. Now they're going to try and bring it back as a free-to-play game or whatever, and it's going to flop again. Like, Sony is not making their money from that game. Nobody wanted Concord. Like, yeah, you could use Microsoft as an example when it comes to Redfall, but at least, well, I'm not sure how much they put into that one, but no one wanted that game either. That's pretty much what I'm trying to get at. Both of these companies are releasing games nobody wanted, and then they act all surprised when nobody gives them money for a game that they don't want.
Instantly cut it. It's very strange to see, and so this quote came out, "Audiences are being overfed and starved at the same time." And the reason I find this to be such a relatable story to Xbox is because I do feel like Xbox's biggest problem is that when they initially pitched the idea of Xbox Game Pass, when they first sort of came out and explained how this is going to be the future of gaming, how it's going to be the best deal in gaming, on paper, it always made sense of like, okay, they have access to 20 different studios, right? So if each of them is putting out a game that takes 3 years to make or 4...
I'm going to be entirely honest with you. Microsoft's biggest issue is that they can't make a good game to save their life. They spend years and years teasing a game. Like, look at Fable, right? They've spent years teasing Fable, and it's only just coming out either this year or next year. I don't really know because I've kind of completely lost all interest in it, but the point is that they spend way too much time teasing a game instead of actually bringing it out and developing it. This is why they should never announce games years in advance it's actually being released. Please. I would appreciate it if they would stop doing that. There should just be a year between the announcement and release of the game. It's perfect. That's more than enough time for you to get hype up. Nobody cares about games like Fable anymore purely because you take that long. You know what, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. I don't want to cover this video anymore. I think you get the point. You understand what's going to happen. It's the same rehash of Dreamcast guy's previous videos on how Xbox is dead. He's gonna completely miss the point on what the actual issue of what Microsoft has, which is their games, lack of quality, and releasing buggy and broken games constantly. And on top of that, not really adding many quality games in recent times to Game Pass to justify the continued purchase of it, but I don't know, I haven't used Game Pass in a long time. I don't really use the Xbox platform at all, so I can't necessarily tell you. Maybe someone in the comments that actually uses their platform will be able to tell you. But anyway, this is the end of the video. Have a great day. See you in the next one. Also forgot to mention, look out your window. I'm outside.